Hey YouTube, this is Landon with Order the Traveling Hats. Today we're going to do a video talking about fuel economy. Fuel economy on the Jeep Gladiator is not that great. My Jeep Gladiator doubly so. I'm getting about 15 miles per gallon in the Jeep right now. Now I've done my research, done my homework. I did my homework before I bought it and thought it would get closer to 17, 18. I've talked to people online. They've all told me that prior to 4,000 miles, the engine needs to break in and the gearbox is breaking in, etc., and you aren't going to get great gas mileage. But after that, you should see a gradual increase. I have not seen that. It has not happened. I'm still getting 15 miles per gallon, even though I've got almost 6,500 miles on the Jeep. So I've been trying to decide what to do about that. Obviously, we don't want to put a tune in. So my solution for now, at least the first thing to try, is to put fresh oil in it, fresh filter, and swap the air filter out and just see if that has any effect. It may not. We don't know. But we are going to do that today. The oil's getting close to needing changed anyways, and it is the original oil from the factory. If there was any metal shavings or anything that's worn off in the engine, it's circulating in that oil, and we probably ought to just go ahead and flush it out anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and do that today. I did find this oil at the parts store. It's the Mobil 1 Advanced Fuel Economy formula. So maybe that'll do something for us too. We'll also kind of get a gauge on that. I do run a full synthetic oil and have for years, and I've ran Mobil 1 for years. This is by no means sponsored. I just think they have a great product. And I've also run these K&N filters for a long time. Not necessarily because they give me a great performance increase or an improvement in gas mileage or anything, just because I like the idea that they're reusable. They're reusable, they do cost a little bit more on the front end, but by the time you buy a filter about once a year to replace, you really do come out ahead. So I can't recommend these K&N filters enough. I've literally been running them since the 90s. So now what we're gonna do is go ahead and get the Jeep and pull it in here and show you guys an oil change and a filter swap. And then to close out the video, we'll come back in about a week and be able to show you guys whether or not this worked. Alright guys, so this is the engine bay of the Jeep Gladiator. As you can see, we've got the 3.6 liter Pentastar V6 engine. This is a little bit different engine cover than the 3.6 had in the JK. They've also changed the oil filter spout now. It's centrally located in the valley here. It used to be on the driver's side over here, and the whole engine cover was a solid piece that had to be removed in order to get to the oil filter, which is this right here. So we're gonna have to undo this a little bit, just loosely, so that you can kind of let the engine vent. And then we're gonna do something a little bit different than drain the oil from underneath. We're actually gonna pull the dipstick, because we've got a neat little trick here. And we're gonna just take the dipstick and we're gonna set it on the back table. And then we're gonna use this Holt Industries pump here, hooked to an air compressor, and it should drain the oil out through the dipstick pipe for us. And that seems to work pretty well. It does make a little racket because it's run off that big old air compressor over there, but it does seem to work pretty well. And we'll double check and make sure we got all the oil out, and then we should be able to do the oil change without necessarily having to crawl under the vehicle. So we're gonna go ahead and get that started, and once I get it hooked up, I'll kind of show you how it works. So what you can see is this basically has a tube that hooks into this little plastic piece here onto this tank, and it runs all the way down into the oil pan through the dipstick pipe. Now it's got a little tension on it just because the Jeep's lifted and it kind of isn't very barely long enough. Then you hook your air compressor in to this and you open this valve, and it'll create a suction action through the compressed air that's being cycled through, and it'll suck the oil out of the oil pan. Works pretty well. So here we go. And you can see it's sucking the oil out now through the tube. It's working pretty good. We're just gonna let it suck. And it's already got some oil in it. It's got about a 9-quart capacity. It had about 5 in it, so we're gonna probably fill it up. This thing holds about another 5 quarts. We're just gonna let it do its thing and suck until it doesn't suck anymore. So the compressor may kick on. It's pretty loud. But this thing works pretty well, and it's a real time saver. Prevents you from having to crawl into the vehicle and mess with the drain plug. Bought it at Harbor Freight. They're like $100, but well worth it. All right, so we've drained all the oil out now. We're gonna just check it with the dipstick real quick. And we're gonna clean that dipstick off, and we're gonna put it back in there just to make sure there's no residual oil in the pan. And as you can see, this thing's pretty bone dry. There's not really any oil on it at all. It's completely dry. We got all the oil out, so we're gonna go ahead and get the filter off and be able to start refilling. Pretty easy. And this is the cartridge housing. There's an O-ring we're gonna take off in just a minute. So the first thing you do is just snap the old filter off. And then we're gonna get a screwdriver out of the toolbox over here. A nice little flathead works great. I found that works better than anything else. DPD, something like this guy here. This is kind of my oil filter screwdriver. Just real simple, flathead, not too wide. And you just want to take it and you want to pry this off. I like to just hook it around and then just pull it and it comes off, and that's your O-ring and that's your housing. So that's what we're going to do with that. Okay, so once we got that off, we're then going to open our Wix filter. This is Wix part number WL10010, just for anybody that's going to the parts store. It should be a new filter, and fancy enough, it matches the old filter that came out, so you can kind of see the two right here next to each other. They do match, so that's good. This is the new one. It also comes with a new O-ring. So we're gonna open the package up for the O-ring. It's got some instructions with it, which just tell you how to kind of put it on. What I like to always do is go ahead and open up my oil over here. And just kind of get my finger with some fresh oil on it, just like that, and oil up my O-ring really well. So the O-ring's really well oiled, and then we're just not going to use the screwdriver. It's pretty stretchy, and just seat it where it goes on the housing there. It just kind of fits on it. It goes in one spot. So now the O-ring's back installed. We've got some shop towels over here. We can kind of dry our hands off as we go. Probably ought to be wearing gloves for this, but I change oil about twice a year, so usually don't. Basically what you're gonna do now is just pop the filter back on. It makes a click, and it's on there, and then it goes back in the Jeep. So we can see there's this hole here, and that's the housing for the oil filter. So the oil filter is just gonna go right back in it and kind of seat, and then it just threads in place, and you can kind of hand tighten it most of the way down. You can feel the O-ring actually engage. And then after that, we're gonna take our trusty socket, try and do this one-handed, and just engage it on there and give this thing some turns. Now it's not gotta be that tight, so I don't get way out here and try and torque it down on the wrench. I just kind of hold it up here and use the wrench as an extension of my hand to kind of hand tighten it down, just like so. That's enough. So now that's seated and ought to be good to go, and all we got left to do is put the oil in right there. All right, so now we're gonna do the air filter. As you can see, there's some little 10mm hex head bolts there. There's one down here on the corner. You can kind of probably maybe see in there. It's kind of hard to see, but he's there. He's right there. There's another one up here, another one over here. There's about 5 of them. We're gonna take those off and get the filter out in just a second, okay? Okay, so this is the paper filter that came out. You can see it's clean, not really dirty. It doesn't got a lot of wear on it, but it's super, super thick. It's a really thick filter. A lot of media to pull through. Probably choking the engine some. So we're gonna open up this K&N filter now and just see what it looks like. Let me reposition the camera real quick. Alright, so you can see this K&N filter is a lot thinner than this big thick paper filter. They're the same profile, they fit, they're identical. This K&N is thicker than a lot of the K&Ns I've seen. I'm sure it's going to be adequate. They make a good product. I've always trusted them, but you can tell, man, it's got a lot less to pull through than the factory filter. So maybe this will improve our fuel economy. We'll see. Alright guys, so we're all buttoned up. One thing I did forget to mention, these 2 bolts here and here are 10mm bolts. They hold this air intake plenum on, make it really difficult to get the airbox apart if they're attached, so it's really helpful to take those 2 off. That's just kind of a top tip. Pull those off, the whole arm will kind of flip up and give you good access to the air filter. Everything's buttoned up, we've checked our oil level, everything looks good. We're ready to start the Jeep up and reset the oil monitor. I can't tell much difference, honestly, in acceleration. Feels about the same, but it does run well, and we'll see what it does on fuel economy over the next week. So for now, I'm gonna finish up this little test drive, go back to the house, and then I'm gonna close out the video. Well, so it's been about a week now, and we've been driving the Jeep. I've been driving it back and forth to work every day. I'm about 10 miles from my work, and I really hate to report that it hasn't done anything for the fuel economy. The oil change and the air filter change, they didn't do anything. Still getting about 15.1, 15.2 miles per gallon. It didn't really change a thing, unfortunately. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more. I would have liked to have seen a 1/10 or 2 at least, but we didn't get that. Maybe we will when we go on longer road trips. I don't know yet. If we do, we'll give you an update. As far as driving dynamics go, the Jeep feels a little better throttle response maybe with the filter change, and kind of subjectively I think the induction noise changed just a little bit, but that's really about it. So yeah, kind of disappointed, and that's okay. Overall, still love the Jeep. So that's going to close out our video today. If you guys like this, please like and subscribe. Let me know in the comments box if you guys like content like this, and we'll make more of it. Or if you have other requests, let me know. And we'll see you guys out there on Order the Traveling Hats.